On August 10th, 1991, the serene silence of Wat from Waddell Buddhist Temple in Waddell, Arizona was shattered. 9 people were executed: the abbot, 5 monks, a nun, her nephew, who was a novice monk, and a temple worker. All were shot in the back of the head, their bodies arranged face down in a circle. Investigators recovered 17 rifle casings and 4 shotgun shells. There were no survivors. Their remains were taken to the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's office in Phoenix for autopsies and identification. At first, detectives focused on what became known as the Tucson Four. Their arrests were chaotic and driven more by desperation than hard evidence. The tip had come from Mike McGraw, who has no relation to the country singer Tim McGraw. Leave him out of it, I love him. Always be humble and kind. No, this McGraw was a psychiatric patient who phoned in names. Deputies rushed to Tucson, scooped up 4 people with no real ties to the temple, and dragged them into custody. They were spotted out of the blue and handcuffed. At the Maricopa County Sheriff's headquarters, the suspects were subjected to marathon interrogations. Over 30 hours of sleep deprivation, rotating deputies, and constant threats of the death penalty, an unconstitutional process. In stark interview rooms, they were fed leading questions and told investigators already had evidence against them. The 3 broke down and signed false confessions. The 4th never gave in, and was later cleared by video proof showing he'd been at work hundreds of miles away when this massacre happened. The 3 remaining ones made their first court appearance before Judge Daniel Martin at the Maricopa County Superior Court. This judge ordered that they remain behind bars at the Maricopa County Jail without bond. The judge also ordered that a grand jury at their court review the evidence in order to confirm the charges. But when investigators presented the case, the grand jury refused to indict. The 4 were released, and Maricopa County Prosecutor Rick Riley officially terminated the case. They had been defended by public defenders, but the damage was done. The sheriff's office had humiliated itself with a botched investigation. Weeks later, the real break came. Investigators discovered that a Marlin .22 caliber rifle, already in the Maricopa Sheriff's Office headquarters, taken from a separate stop, was in fact the murder weapon. That rifle was traced back to 17-year-old Jonathan Duty, a Thai-born high school student in Glendale. He often associated with 16-year-old Alessandro Garcia, a troubled kid with a juvie record. Deputies arrested Duty at his suburban home, knocking on the door, speaking to his parents first, then pulling him out of the family home in shock. Garcia was arrested in the same way at home, with his parents left bewildered. Both kids were transported to the Maricopa County Sheriff's headquarters. They confessed to the involvement and were booked into the Maricopa County Jail. At this point, the right suspects were caught, not the other 4 that so innocently let these deputies take them away in handcuffs and lock them up. Prosecutor Riley once again presented the evidence to a grand jury at the Maricopa County Superior Court. Both kids were indicted on 11 felony counts, 9 of first-degree murder, armed robbery, and burglary. Their first appearance before Judge Michael Ryan at the court ended with both being ordered to remain behind bars without bond to await trial. At arraignment before this judge, both pleaded not guilty to the charges. The case is soon split. Garcia struck a plea deal, agreeing to testify against duty. He pled guilty, avoiding the death penalty, and was sentenced by Judge Bryan to 271 years in prison. Duty's case went to trial in 1993. A jury of 12 members plus 2 alternates convicted him on all charges. Although prosecutors initially considered the death penalty, they ultimately chose not to pursue it. Therefore, Judge Ryan sentenced Duty to 9 consecutive life in prison terms without parole, plus an additional 231 years. At one point, he had to step out of court and take a dump, like the duty he was. Appeals followed. Garcia tried to withdraw his plea, but Judge Ryan refused to let him do so and refused to modify the case in any way. Judge Ryan also refused to modify the case of Duty and sent it over to the federal level. The higher courts would have to make decisions regarding the appeals for both. The Arizona Supreme Court in Phoenix affirmed the guilty plea of Garcia, bringing an end to his appellate process. Duty, however, had more success. His attorneys argued his confession had been coerced, and in 2008, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in Phoenix, Arizona, agreed to overturn his conviction. He was retried in 2011, but that ended in a hung jury. A fair trial was done in 2014, presided over by Judge John Phillips, but this did not result in success. He was convicted on all counts once again by a jury of the same amount. Even in 2011, he got the same number of jurors serving. Duty was sentenced once again to 9 life terms without parole. However, he would not get the 200-something additional years like last time. He appealed again. Judge Phillips refused to modify the case further, and the Arizona Supreme Court in 2015 denied the appeal this time. After sentencing, both were processed at the Phoenix Inmate Reception Center. This was when they received the very first sentencing. Garcia is serving his term at the Buddy Avenue unit in Florence, Arizona, the small town, not Florence, Colorado. And Duty, on the other hand, is currently housed at the Kaibab unit in Winslow, another Arizona town. Before his conviction was overturned, though, he had been at the I-Man prison in Florence. During his retrials, he was transferred over and held at the 4th Avenue Jail in Phoenix. He did not have to return to the reception center after the next sentencing. The Buddhist Temple Massacre remains one of the darkest crimes in Arizona history, not only for the brutality of those murders, but also for the shameful false confessions and wrongful arrests that almost derailed justice entirely. If these 4 wrongfully incarcerated young men commit suicide, the county is the one to blame, and they deserve to be sued as much as possible. May peace be among the 4. Both Jesus Christ and Buddha saved them. And may the deceased victims rest in peace. This was truly an act of religious hate.